we're going to talk about LinkedIn a little bit. Okay, so LinkedIn. Now, what I really enjoy about LinkedIn, okay, is that they're very open with their algorithm. I'll share this link, but they really go into, they have a developer's blog. They don't hide anything about their algorithm and how it works. Okay, so I really encourage anybody. Once again, we'll share this presentation, we'll share the recording. Take some time, read this post that I'm sharing right now. There is a more recent one, but this one is pretty good to start, and then you can go down the rabbit hole if you want to go down the rabbit hole. Okay. The other thing that LinkedIn, and I actually noticed this before I even read this article when it first happened, is that LinkedIn, and probably a lot of you guys might have, if you're LinkedIn users, might have seen this as well, is the reality is there was a point where LinkedIn really favored like the top contributors. Like, for example, like Richard Branson, the guy owns a spaceship. He has 14 million followers. He would get 10,000 responses. Meanwhile, Joe Average, Kim Average, just a VP of finance or a marketing manager would put out some great piece of content, okay, share some really valuable information, have fun, but would get like no engagement, no responses, okay? And LinkedIn saw that because what they were seeing is that less and less people, once again, these are all social platforms. They're trying to build a community. They're trying to get people to participate. They saw less and less John Q. Public, Jill Q. Public posting because they were like, why? I put something out there and I get 10 people to see it, okay? And they really have adjusted that quite a bit. Because I even noticed on my own posts, especially when I was at Dun & Bradstreet as director of digital products, I used to put out a lot of content and talk about a lot of things. And I would get, even though I had followers, I had people liking, blah, 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 I would get like 90 people looking at my content, and I was like, what? So you stop getting engaged, Then really in 2019, I really saw that change a lot where I would just in 2 seconds share just like an article I saw, not even really write all that much, and all of a sudden have 400 views, So they really have adjusted that, changed that quite a bit, and I think that's great that they've done that. So let's talk a little bit more about LinkedIn. They really, everything works off of, even though there's a big long blog post and they really go down the rabbit hole, LinkedIn really works, algorithms really work off of 3 core concepts. And once again, you kind of see this following through with the other platforms, okay, is identity. Who are you? Where do you work? What are your skills? Who are you connected with? That's what they're looking at. They're looking at those credibility factors. Content. How many times was the update viewed? How many times was it liked? What is the update about? How old is it? What language is it written in? What companies, people, or topics are mentioned in the update? That's something that I've really learned a lot about, is mention the companies in and use their hashtags in their, well, not hashtags, but mention the companies, oh no, it is hashtags, in the content. I have done posts where I just said something about GoDaddy and went hashtag GoDaddy, or Google, and the views have gone through the roof, okay? So I really encourage people, mention the companies you're talking about, the people. You can do the same thing with people. If you have a connection and go, hey, I read an interesting article by Bob Smith, mention Bob Smith in the post. It really does work, okay? Especially the company thing, like it's pretty interesting, okay? And then behavior. What have you liked or shared in the past? And they're looking out for relevancy and expertise, okay? So, if I'm always talking about online marketing and then I share something about online marketing, well, that share means a lot more because that's my expertise. I'm the VP of Digital Operations at a digital agency. I share content about those types of things, and then if I share a piece of content, okay, if this guy, who he is sharing it, it must be a good piece of content. Now, if I just went out randomly and shared a donut recipe, doesn't really matter, okay? I'm not an expert in donuts. I'm an expert in eating donuts, but that's about it. So moving along. So let's talk a little bit more about the algorithm in 2020. This is extremely important, but it's really kind of the same concept as you had when we talked about Facebook. So the real key to going viral is getting that first degree connections engaging with you. Okay, so with LinkedIn they have different degrees of connection, so levels of separation. So you have the people that you're connected with, that's your first level. You have the people that your connections are connected with, and then you have the people your connections who are connections who are connections. Okay, so instantaneously when you first post, they send that content to your first level connections. And depending on their engagement, so if you send that piece of content to Will, and Will likes it or shares it, okay, and Will's your first level connection, so now since Will shared it or liked it or commented on it, all his first level connections are going to see it, okay? And then if Will's first level connection sees it and one of them shares, so forth and so on and so on. So that, lack of a better word, it's not a trick, but the tactic is getting your first level folks, the people that you can communicate directly with, to engage with your content. And then it just spirals from there. Like all the other platforms, they want your content, okay? Articles, they do all these thought leadership articles. Anything that's put on that's unique to them that you post, they're going to give that preferential treatment. And we kind of touched upon this. Oh, actually, I want to take a second to stop here because this is important, okay? Content will be shown to the most relevant people in your network. This is really important, and this is the biggest mistake I see almost everybody make with LinkedIn. They connect with everybody, okay? Now, going back to what I was talking about before, if you write an article, and let's say I'll use myself as an example. Let's say I write some article about some SEO tactic or some paid search tactic, okay? And these numbers mean nothing, I'm just using an example, I have 500 connections, okay? But let's say 450 of my connections have nothing to do with online marketing, okay? So even though I have 500 connections, okay, only 10% of my connections are gonna have any interest in my paid search advertising tactic, okay? So you're greatly negatively impacting your ability to get engagement with your content, okay? Be very selective on who you connect with. If you're looking to use LinkedIn as a tool to, for content syndication, for thought leadership, you need to be very selective on who you connect with. Me being somebody at a company in a leadership role, I get connection requests all the time, primarily from salespeople, but everything in between. And the reality is, I want to be connecting with people who would be interested in my content. So just going out and going, wow, I got 1,000 connections or 2,000, guess what? If they're not relevant to you, if they're not going to be interested in the content you're putting out, completely pointless. Okay, it's just a vanity number at that point. So be very selective on who you connect with. And then content will be shown just like other platforms to people that have engaged with in the past. So individuals who have liked and commented or shared your content are more likely to engage with it in the future. Okay. And then so moving forward. So kind of touched upon this, create a relevant network on LinkedIn. If you're, in online marketing, having a plumber, not that, hey, look, my family, I got plumbers in my family, there's nothing wrong with that, but they're not going to be engaged in online marketing tactics, okay? So, make sure that you have a relevant network on LinkedIn because that will increase your engagement. Start conversations. This is a trend you'll see throughout social platforms. Hey, their name's social, okay? You need to be engaging in those conversations more now than ever. Back in the day, you used to be able to just push tons of content out. Now it's about talking and engaging with your audience. And then produce more native content than own content. LinkedIn's really looking for you to put content on their site. It really helps them out. They give it preferential treatment, and it builds engagement. And you just find a happy medium, because there is value you giving a piece of content that's unique to LinkedIn. You get a lot of views, people look at who you are, and it does build presence. So it's definitely worth doing. And LinkedIn gives a ton of preferential treatment to content that's unique, that you've posted that's unique to LinkedIn.